if we are going to lead change, we are taking people down paths that don't exist yet. So this
Mm,
isn't about identifying the path that I need to go down. This is about where's the new path that I need to create so others
yes.
can go down it, right? So without that mindset, you're not going to create the path because you're going to look for what's already there.
Mm,
And then there are those who say, okay, here is the path we're going down, but I can see where we can make it better and where we can adjust it. And then the next level in my mind is the people who go, okay, there is no path and I
mm,
need to create that. And I can envision that. And now can I bring that to fruition and conjure it?
mm,
So how do we go down that path and create
mm.
those recipes where those recipes didn't exist before? And that takes a lot of courage.
Welcome to Change Leadership Conversations, where we dive into what it takes to lead change in today's disruptive and fast paced world. I'm Yvonne the founder of the Change Leadership. We create change leadership workshops, content, courses, and community. My guest today is David Donaldson, TEDx speaker, VP, and partner at the Leadership Pipeline Institute Canada and faculty at Schulich Executive Education Center. With more than 3 decades of experience, David has led transformations across sectors from finance to digital innovation. David doesn't just teach change, he lives it. Whether he's guiding enterprise-wide transformations, teaching future leaders, or paddling solo through backcountry lakes, he brings the same mindset of adaptability, curiosity, and leadership to everything he does. In today's episode, we explore David's change leadership journey, how he shaped his path, how he's seen the work evolve, and a different mindset on how he's approaching AI. You'll hear candid reflections, personal stories, and practical insights that speak directly to the heart of leading change today. I invite you to hit the follow button and stay connected with our change leadership community. David, welcome to the Change Leadership Conversations. Actually, having this conversation with you is like having a conversation with an old friend.
I was thinking the same.
You've been part of the community for the last 8 years or so, and
Oh, yeah.
it was just coincidence to connect with you because you came as part of Tidal Shift, and then who was one of the sponsors of our second
The
Change
very
Leadership
first one.
conference,
Yeah.
the second one, the first of Mars. And we had a last minute speaker cancellation on the panel. I turned to someone and I said, we have a last minute cancellation. And they said, David. They said, I know the person for you, David Donaldson. And since then, you've just been part of the community. It's always
Yeah.
a joy to speak to you. Thank you. And welcome to
Oh,
Change Leadership Conversation.
thank you. It's a great pleasure. I love what you're doing. And honestly, and I say this so many times, the change community has done such a disservice to itself by calling it change management. Right at the top here, you've come in and said, no, this is change leadership, not management. You had me there. And the work that you're doing is fantastic and it's a great community. So I'm honored to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me say this right up front. Thank you for the support over the years. When I say it's like having a conversation with a friend, it's literally
Mhm.
having a conversation with a friend. We co-created the hosting experience for the Change Leadership Conference, the one we had in 2025, which was really all about the playbook. And I love how you're always very experiential. I reached out to you and said, will you co-host the event with me? And you said yes. And I said,
Absolutely.
this is all the things I have in mind. And you were full of ideas and just a great spot to just work with me on it. And I think back again to another conference I was having, and I said, oh, I'm doing the land acknowledgement. And you took the time to really
Yeah.
share with me what it was to do land acknowledgement and how to go about doing the land acknowledgement. And I took all of that feedback to do the land acknowledgement. And I got great feedback
Love it.
to another event and also using that same feedback in terms of how to approach the land
Love it.
acknowledgement to really make it meaningful. And that's
Yeah.
the thing I love about you. You're all about meaningful experiences.
Thank you. It's interesting you bring that up because something that really drives me nuts is when
Mhm.
land acknowledgements are done performatively. Let me read the list of the names and this type of
Mm,
thing.
mm,
And I still get chills when I think about your land acknowledgement that you did at your conference a couple sessions ago, because what you got us to do was pause and reflect. And it's interesting because as we're going to get into this conversation, AI is going to come up for sure. I know you. It is going to come up. And it's going to be like, what's new and different and exciting, right?
Mm,
And at the same time, we need to honor our past. We need to honor our
yeah.
ancestors. And this is some of the beautiful wisdom that we can learn from the first peoples of this beautiful land.
Mm,
And bringing that into our lives as change leaders is really
mm.
important because we want to stay grounded in the past while we move forward into the future. So it's such an important piece.
It's interesting you say that. I've been reading a few books by Ben Hardy. One
Hmm.
of the books he's written is Time is a Tool, and I love his readings. This is his third book I'm reading. In it, he talks about your past and your future being a tool
Mm,
of time. The past drives to where you're at present, and the future is a tool for you to focus on where it is that you want to go. But it's an acknowledgement that we're all shaped by our past, and negative or positive, the way the past becomes a tool is the way you choose to frame it.
yes, very wise.
It's the way you
Yeah.
choose to frame it. So that just what you shared reminded me about that. So we cannot say we're not going to pause and acknowledge the past because the past is what has brought us to where we are. As we look to the future, we must also acknowledge the past. So thank you.
Love it. Love it. What a great way to start.
I know, right? We almost like we did our own little land acknowledgement on the podcast.
There it is.
Davey, tell me, when you're not paddling solo through the backcountry lakes in a canoe that you've built yourself, or not trying to fly a plane somewhere or the other, you still have this very fascinating and diverse career from consulting to doing program development to change management, and now just building leaders across Canada. And dare I say, the world, right?
Mm.
Globally as
Yeah, it is a
well.
global organization. Yeah.
So let's rewind a little and share with
Mhm.
us, how did you start this journey? How did change leadership begin for you? I say change leadership because you acknowledge that you enjoy the framing of the word change leadership, but paths cross through change management, which is also a big part of my own past as
Yeah.
well and my present as well. Tell me, how did you get to where you are today?
Oh, wow. It's a weird journey. I really started in as being an entrepreneur. So I literally graduated high school with my own business cards. I was the only one there with my own business cards.
What did your business card say?
First of all, it said president, of course. So I'd started a company called Beaker Enterprises because my nickname at the time was Beaker. And yeah, we'll move on from that. What I was doing was basically I was managing and captaining yachts, so motorboats. Now, I have an older brother. He's 5 years older than me. And he had started a business when he first got out of school, importing these boats from Taiwan. And so I was always hanging out and helping him out. It was a bit of a family business. And so as I graduated, I'm like, I'm going to start my own business and do this. But when you do that, when you start a small business, you
Mm,
have to be agile. You have to be changing. You have to be able to go left and right.
mm,
And small business, large business, you have to embrace change. And the field is littered with those who did not and failed and those who did and succeeded. It really became very dynamic. And it's interesting because when you step into a large organization, there's a lot of structure. There's a lot of here's the hierarchy of the organization, and here's the process for doing X, and here's the process for doing Y. And it's a big ship. So when you want to shift that, when you want to change direction, it takes a lot. There's a lot of planning involved, there's a lot of people involved, and and there's a lot of time involved. When you are a solopreneur and a small business entrepreneur, you've got one, two, five, 10 people,
mm,
it can be very quick to change that direction. And when done right, that can be a huge advantage. And of course, when done wrong, it can be a disadvantage. But I think my early experiences really helped shape me in terms of it's okay to be fluid. It's okay to be flexible. At times, we really need that. And both within my personal, as certain things worked and certain things didn't, and I needed to change, but also within the business world in
mm.
terms of we're going down this path and it's not working, or we're going down this path and it is working. So I think I really got a taste for that early on. And I'm not the type of person, as you've already alluded to, that is going to be the Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. That is not me to my core. So it's like I'm always off trying something new and different. And I love that and I thrive on that. But where it really got started was really my first business, my first company. And it's long gone, and I've gone many others in between. But
Mm.
that joy of creating something new and building something.
So I laugh at you saying first out of university you had a business. Actually, when I think back to it, but I remember I used to
Mm,
bake cakes and sell.
nice.
I actually remember being in university because I used to love to cook. I say used to because
Yes.
I don't love to cook it. I don't have the time to cook. And definitely cooking isn't something that I say, oh, I need to relax. I'll relax in the garden when I do gardening. But I remember when I was in university, I actually printed flyers about catering and cooking and putting it on cards and saying divine,
I
something
love
like
it.
divine cooking or divine catering. I'm laughing at you. I actually did something like this and I forget
I love it.
completely.
I'm editing your story because the image of you as a young girl with a little stand out front of the house at the edge of the street with your baked goods is way better than a university student. So I'm going with that image.
It wasn't as fancy as that. That was just me with my parents' friends. Like, I'm baking, and they had to order for me. Imagine
Yeah,
me saying, oh, I'm baking. Would you like to order a Christmas cake?
yeah, yeah.
What are they going to say? Tell me.
They're going to say yes,
Yes,
and they'll give you some money. Exactly. It's also in the product, right?
yes, it was good. My cakes were really good. I got them from this cookbook my mom had. And I
Mm,
remember going back to see her and I saw this cookbook and just the memories of that cookbook, even though I'm not going to get
mm,
anything from it, I just had to have that cookbook because I think that's
yeah,
the best cake recipe that I had. But maybe that entrepreneurial mindset that I had then could serve me a little bit now. I'm doing business. I could take one,
yeah,
two things from it. But talking about mindset, how do you believe that entrepreneur
yeah,
mindset
yeah.
has created an entrepreneurial mindset for you now within organizations that I dare say that is beneficial? So, not putting
Mm,
words in your mouth, but the people who made a difference in the organizations were people with that entrepreneurial mindset, that's an entrepreneur mindset within an organization. And now, even in the disruption that we're facing, what are your thoughts?
I think you're bang on, and here's why. If I step into a large organization without that mindset, I'm going to be looking for what is the process? How do I do X? How do I do Y? And I'm going to ask for that support. That is not a bad way to be. And we
Mhm.
need lots of folks like that.
Yes.
But if we are going to lead change, we are taking people down paths that don't exist yet. So this
Mm.
isn't about identifying the path that I need to go down. This is about where's the new path that I need to create so others
Yes.
can go down it, right? So without that mindset, you're not going to create the path because you're going to look for what's already there.
Mm.
And when I look at different people and I see that in people, there are those who are saying, how do I do X? How do I do Y? And then there are those who say, okay, here is the path we're going down, but I can see where we can make it better and where we can adjust it. And then the next level in my mind is the people who go, okay, there is no path and I
Mm.
need to create that. And I can envision that. And now can I bring that to fruition and conjure it?
Mm.
So how do we go down that path and create
Mm.
those recipes where those recipes didn't exist before? And that takes a lot of courage. The explorer who is exploring a new land, we don't know what's over the crest. We don't know what's around the bend. And we need to go see that. If that land has already been explored, I now have a map and I can follow that map and I can repeat that. But it's the first person to go down those paths. So I'm going to take this back to our school days conversation. Now we think about the jobs that were available to us as we graduated. We think about the technologies that existed, the things that we're doing. I'm going to date myself a little bit. I'm an old gray-haired guy. I don't mind saying that. But things like 3D printers did not exist when I graduated. Jobs like being a YouTube influencer, YouTube didn't even exist when I
Mm.
graduated. So
When I
we
graduated, the internet was barely a thing. Like
exactly,
it was,
exactly.
I think it was the year after I graduated. So yes, we're dating
And
ourselves.
I know we are. But we think about that and think about, okay, I'm now well into my career. I'm looking for how do I stay relevant? How do I be effective? How do I lead people who are graduating with skills and competencies and technologies
Mm,
and a society that is almost foreign to what I grew up in. Is change leadership a job? Is it a career?
mm,
Is it an industry? It always has been.
mm.
And at the same time, the pace of that change is growing at exponential rates.
It is, yes.
So we think about, okay, here is what's available to me today. And I know AI is a favorite topic of yours, so I'm going to use that. And it's something where I can say it didn't exist when I went to school. It
Mm,
hasn't existed for much of my career. I'm going to not welcome it in. I'm not going to accept it. I'm not going to use it, et cetera, et cetera. I will get left behind.
mm-hmm.
Or I can lead that change and say, you know what? Here's something new and interesting and burgeoning. It's not here yet. In many ways, it's already here, but it's not here yet.
Mm,
And as it evolves and emerges, do I want to be waiting until it has solidified? Or do I want to be understanding it so that when it is ready, I'm also ready? Because we
yes.
need to have both sides of that equation. But it is something where it is going to move forward. I loved the framing at the last Change Leadership Conference. You had a panel up from the healthcare industry, and there was a brilliant question from the audience. Will AI replace the doctor? And the answer back, and I've quoted this many times, the answer back was simple and beautiful. AI will not replace the doctor. The doctor using AI will replace the doctor not using AI.
Mm,
It is a tool,
it is a
right?
tool.
And as we in our human history, we've had many tools that have come and people have been scared of them. People have been early adopters. People have been naysayers and saying they won't. And it's a common story,
Yeah.
right?
And we even think about tools people have been scared of. It's so funny and incredible to think that the calculator was one thing people were
Mm.
scared of. They were protests on the streets.
And they weren't allowed to be used in exams. Oh my God.
Just in the introduction of calculator, there was protest. So AI, of course, is going to be that protest. As you were speaking, I love that you used the word courageous because even as I was asking you the question of having that entrepreneurial mindset, I had never
Mm.
associated it with its value as a change manager, as a change leader. And as you spoke, I began to see the correlation, and maybe that's what makes for a good change leader. Because the things that were coming to me as you were talking, one was courageous. Because when you're in a
Mhm.
business, it takes a lot of courage. And as a
Does.
change leader or change manager who wants to make a difference in their organization or to that change, you have to be courageous to take people down a path that is unknown. Then there's the adaptive mindset that you have to have as an entrepreneur, right? And as an entrepreneur, which you bring into the workplace, is the ability to adapt and pivot and move around when things are not working as it should, when suddenly the change changes on you. Navigating the messy middle. And there's just so much of a correlation between being an entrepreneur and being a change manager and being able to bring that mindset into the workplace
Yeah, for sure.
to make it work. When you think back to your career, tell us a little bit about the change management piece in it. And one of the things I always say to every colleague, and I've said this to you before, I know I've said it to a few people, is that we must be gluttons for punishment, right?
Mm, yes.
Well, we love the work. We love the work
We
that
do.
we do around change. What do you love most about leading change? What is it for you?
Yeah. I think that there's definitely a sense of adventure there. There's an assessment that's done called the Colby, and it's a very interesting one because it's cognitive. It's how you operate. And of all the assessments that are out there, this is one that does not change through your life. So many of them will change and flex
Really?
through your life. This one does stay the same. And they've actually done functional like fMRI studies where they can predict what areas of your brain will light up based on your Colby. So
Mm,
it's really how you're wired. And I am an initiating quick start. And what that means is I love to jump into things. So quick start is a jump in and get it done. A fact finder By contrast, a fact finder is someone who likes to research, who loves to read. And
Mm.
if you're an initiating fact finder, what you're going to do is you're going to start down a path with something new by reading about it and researching about it and understanding it. Now, both approaches have validity in the change leadership world.
Okay.
But the reason that this popped to mind when you asked me this question is because you said change leaders are gluttons for punishment. And I would agree with you. What do I love about it? I love jumping and quick starting something. Now, that can be to my detriment because, of course, an initiating quick start often has many started projects. Another dimension within Colby is follow through, and that's actually honestly my lowest score. And follow through is someone who has high follow through. Whatever they start, they have to finish sometimes to obsess. I love starting new things. I love exploring, and I think honestly, I'm a bit of an explorer at heart. You referenced my backcountry canoeing adventures, my flying adventures. Travel is a beautiful thing and I love it, but I love going somewhere where I haven't been before. Going and finding that adventure as opposed to going down the well-beaten path. And even when it is a well-beaten path, I'm always looking for what's new, different. So in our beautiful country here in Canada, as we're entering into the fall season, going down the same path as I see it in fall versus in winter versus in spring versus in summer. And I was chatting with someone yesterday and they were commenting about, oh, it's going to get cold and yada. And, they're saying they prefer to live in the sunny south. I'm like, I wouldn't. It's boring. It's the same all year. So having the change, it makes you appreciate, when we think about our lovely short summer and then the beautiful fall season and the deep winter and the spring, and they all have their beauties, but each one helps you appreciate the other more. So to me, change it brings life. It brings beauty and joy to life because we appreciate everything greater when it's temporary.
What do you think my two highest Colby scores are?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so the four dimensions, there's quick start, there's fact finder, there's follow through, and implementer. So implementer is very spatial. So if you're good with physical machines and things, I'm going to say fact finder is high. I think you're a researcher, you're a reader. I know you're a big reader. I'm between quick start and follow through because you have a brilliant ability to keep going. Like the fact that you have started this conference and kept it going. We're coming on 10 years. 10 years is our next year. If it was me, it would have been started once and we probably would have had one, maybe two. I think I'm gonna go with the follow through and the fact finder as your
No,
two.
interested. I have to give myself kudos for following through on 10 years. I keep on, there was
Yeah,
something, it's the passion. It's the passion that keeps me going. But
it
my
is.
two highest are actually Quick Starter and
Okay.
Fact Finder. I am a Quick
Okay.
Starter. I can get excited about an idea, start it,
Yeah.
and I just lose steam, right? So
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
through and implementer are struggles for me.
We should do some research here. We should do some study to see how many change leaders are initiating quick starts.
Oh, that's true. So we'd have to find people who have done Colby
Yeah.
or ask them to do Colby. Maybe that has something to do for your interest in change leadership and change management in terms of helping people through, getting people through that unknown. Because one of the things is I thrive in ambiguity. And I feel that's a great skill as a change leader, as a change manager, because we spoke about that. You're leading people through paths unknown. So you
Hmm.
have to
Hmm.
have that element of quick starter, being able to see things more clearly, because I've never been able to understand things that I see clearly. People think it's ambiguous, but I just thrive in it, right? Finding it and getting through it and the paths unknown. So maybe that's something we do have to do some research, right?
We should. I think we should. I like it. Yeah, I like
You
where you're
know,
going with that.
when you think about your change management path and what you've done in the area
Hmm.
of change management, what would you say has been that pivotal moment that has made the whole
Mm.
difference in your career or defined your trajectory in terms of what you've chosen to do or how to see things?
Yeah. I was anticipating this one. I've been thinking about it. I was looking at, was there a pivotal moment? It's going to seem really odd. When I was very young, I read a book called The Minerva Reef. Now, it is a true story. And so just for a little bit of context, I'm from New Zealand originally.
Okay.
And we moved to Canada when I was very young. I was just a year old. And as everyone does, you have your collection of books. And so I was sifting through the books when I was very young. And I came across this book called The Minerva Reef, and it's actually set in the South Pacific. It's a true story of a crew who was sailing a small yacht from Congo to New Zealand, and they shipwrecked in the middle of the night. And then they spent the next 200 something days stranded on this reef until they finally literally built a boat
Mm.
and rescued themselves off of the reef. And in the summation at the end of it, the captain had said, if that reef hadn't been there for them to live on. So the reef it's an atoll, which means it's underwater in the high tide and it's above water in the low tide. And there was a wrecked ship fishing trawler on the reef that remained above the surface during high tide. So when they first wrecked, they saw that and they very quickly grabbed what they could from their sinking ship and went across the reef and got onto this fishing trawler and basically set up house. He said if that wasn't there, we would have been rescued within a week, maybe two, because what they would have done is used one cycle of the tide to get their stuff together, make a makeshift raft. They would have sailed off the reef and they would have found civilization or been rescued. Instead, because they set up camp there, they sustained themselves for a couple hundred days, so close to a year. And eventually they built a small boat to sail themselves off and effect their own rescue. And what had occurred to me, the big lesson I learned is how temporary things become permanent
Mm.
and how temporary things are sometimes not the best solutions, right? So instead of focusing in on, we need to get rescued, we need to get back to civilization, what they focused on was setting up camp, right? Now, 3 or 4 people actually died through the experience, sadly. No one would, but no one died during the sinking of the boat. They all survived the initial sinking. They all survived for quite some time on the reef. And the captain reckoned that if they had done that, if they had built a quick raft, if they had sailed off the reef in that first night, that he reckons they all would have lived. As I reflected on that and thought about that, and then I'm going to put a change lens on this, we are presented with challenges. In this case, the sinking of your boat. And we are presented with options. In this case, they could have built a raft. They could have set up camp in this fishing trawler that stayed above high tide. And we make our choices. But we need to be very aware of what is long-term, what is short-term, and allowing what is a short-term quick fix to deal with a current situation, and then allowing that to become long-term.
Mm.
So this is a lens that I go through life with, and that especially I apply in the change world, because I look at that and say, okay, what's our long-term on this? What's our short-term on this? And we put this into the entrepreneurial lens. I need to create a new department. I need to make a new process. I need to go down a new path because of whatever. Am I doing that on that very short-term Band-Aid version? Or am I doing that on that longer term? I'm going to be strategic about this. So fast forward a whole bunch of years, won't say how many. And I'm working for one of the banks. And we had this system because we had a regulatory requirement, right? And of course, regulatory requirements come in suddenly. So this is like the sinking of the boat. And they created a quick fix. And the quick fix was designed and intended to be a one-time thing, and then we'll take our time to sort it out. I took over managing the quick fix at about year 7. And every year, it became a bit of a standing joke with my boss and I. We need to do that process again. There's no budget to change it. Last time. This is the last time we'll do it, right? And I did that for, I think, 5 years. And every time, I always took a little corner of that budget that I had to run the project, because you had to run it. You had to do it. This was one of those, it's a regulatory requirement. There's going to be big fines and consequences as we go, right?
Yeah.
So there was budget to run it, but I couldn't get official budget to fix it.
Mm.
But I also looked at the Band-Aid and thought, without any serious budget, I can do this little fix. So year 1, I did that. And then year 2, I did that. And then year 3, I did that. So by the time I handed it off, I'm proud to say it was in a lot better shape than when I took it on. And I'm not saying that in any disparaging to the previous, because I know the previous people who created it. They did a great job. Don't get me
Mm,
wrong. They did a great job, but they were given a mandate of a one-time quick fix.
mm,
They were given a mandate of don't fix it. Don't put any money to it. Just run it.
mm,
But I said, okay, first year, yeah, but I'm also looking at going, this has been going for 7 years. And my boss says, yeah, I know this is the last year. And then the next year rolled around, this is the last year, and so on. And I handed it off. And a few years later, as I was having lunch with an old friend, it's still going. It's one of those things where you want to look at, yes, we do have to recognize that there are constraints.
mm.
And at the same time, we look for those opportunities. What can we do to leave everything just a little bit better than it was? And it's applying that long-term lens to what is being presented as a short-term problem.
Thank you for sharing that. And as I listened to you, one of the things that came to my mind was even the sometimes negative fallout of when we do temporary solutions, which where because we're so focused on temporary solutions, getting it there, making it happen, we ignore, we forget, or we're not even aware of the impact that, in quotes, people could lose their lives, right? Or when you think about the story you just shared. And that's where the passion for change leadership has been about for us as an organization
Mm,
to say that when change is done right, it doesn't only benefit that organization from the return on investment, but it has more of a positive impact on employees' mental well-being, on the surrounding communities. Just using that saying of a rising tide lifts all boats. And the
absolutely.
fallout of when change isn't done right, when it's just put through and let's just get through, let's just make it happen, sometimes can have very negative effects. The most negative effect that we can think about that is still fresh in many people's minds is the pandemic. When we think back
Mm,
into the pandemic and across the various countries, the way it was led, leadership, made a
mm.
difference to the numbers of casualties.
Oh, yeah, very much
The
so.
way we lead change or the way we lead as a whole, leadership can be, unfortunately, life or death.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I was actually going to challenge you because you said in quotes. No, it's not in quotes. There are industries. You look at medical, you look at aviation, you look at transportation, you look at building, construction. You get these things wrong and people die. And it's an interesting thing because in my world, while professionally I work in much more of a corporate setting, my hobby is in flying.
Mm.
And I think you know this of me. I'm a safety officer for the Soaring Association in Canada. And I actually use that as a bit of a want to make sure I don't say this in a bad way. It is a place where I apply a lot of my change leadership. And in being so, it gives me a little bit of freedom and flexibility to experiment a little bit and to try a little bit and to work. And I'm actually in my 10th year. So you mentioned about the 10th year of your conference. I'm in my 10th year as the National Safety Officer. And I use this actually as one of my biggest examples. I feel it's one of my biggest successes in terms of change leadership because it's in a volunteer setting. So my role has zero power. I cannot dictate anything. I cannot walk into a flying operation anywhere in Canada and say, you're doing that wrong and I'm going to sanction you or fine you or in any way cause you. The only tool I have is advice. I can offer that up. So it's really made me stretch in terms of what that looks like. And I'm proud to say that I've gotten some really good progress on that. But it is long and slow. And it is something where there are people's lives that are impacted.
Yes,
And in some industries, it's easy to forget that what you're doing has that big of an impact.
it does make a difference. And that's where it comes in about courageous leadership because sometimes
Yeah.
as change leaders, I've found myself in situations leading change and I've had to take some courageous steps to say, no, we cannot do it this way because it's going to
Yeah.
impact X, Y, Z. At the risk of losing that role, you
Yeah. Yeah.
have to be courageous. And it doesn't always turn out right. And sometimes you listen to, and sometimes they're like, this person is disrupting things.
Yeah.
When we think about change management, and I know you already said you're not so keen on that term change management, and I know we have change enablement, we have all kinds of terms to it. When you think about change management or not change management, or when you describe change management, some of the misconceptions out there is usually what is change management? And often at times, people think change management to be training and communications. So, from your lens, as having been in the change management space, having been in the change leadership space, and having a very strong background in your current role now, learning and development, leadership
Yeah.
development, what are your thoughts on change management as a whole and the misconceptions people have about what change management is or not?
Beautiful question. I love it. It's a subset. First of all, change management, change leadership, they both are real things. They both have their places. Where I have a challenge with that is where people do only change management and not do change management and change
Mm,
leadership. Okay.
mm.
You manage a project, you lead people. Is managing the change important? Yes, it is, because we need timelines and budgets, et cetera, and
Yeah.
deliverables. But we can put, and this drives me nuts when I see people do this, where they drop a system in and then expect everyone to just use it. So it's like they've done the management piece, but they haven't done the leadership piece. So then we push back on that and they say, oh, yeah, we need to do some training and communication. I say, okay, what are you doing in terms of leading the change or the change management or change leadership, whichever term you want to use? And they say, oh, yeah, we have a communications plan and we're going to train them. Now, that is important and that is needed, yes, but it is a subset because you can communicate a bunch and you can train a bunch and people don't change. It's one of those things where people always talk about intrinsic motivators, extrinsic motivators. I disagree. I don't think there's not an extrinsic motivator. There's an intrinsic motivator. There are extrinsic influencers. There's extrinsic forces. There's extrinsic inputs. But when I change, that comes from me with inside. And my motivation around what I want to do, that does come from inside. Now, it may be informed by things that are external, but it comes from inside. Can I be effective as a change leader without communication and without training? Absolutely not. If you are doing communication and training, are you a change leader? Perhaps. A rose is a flower, but not all flowers are roses. And this is where it's a subset. So, is it a key tool? Absolutely. In fact, I contend that it's your biggest asset and it's your biggest liability. Because
Mm.
when you get it wrong, you cause all kinds of challenges. And when you get it right, you fix some stuff. Inherently, if I train someone and if it actually works, because the goal of training is to have a change in the behaviors
Mm.
of the person on the other side. If I am getting it right as a trainer, as a facilitator, I'm inherently enabling and causing change.
Mm.
But it goes beyond that. It is bigger than that. It is greater than that. And it's a bit like if I just look at communication on its own, I say, oh, well, do you have a communication plan? Yeah, we're sending out these 5 emails spaced over the next 3 weeks. That's not communication, that's transmitting. And communication is in both directions. Now, if we think about what we're doing right now, we are communicating because I am talking, you're listening, you're talking, I'm listening, and we are adjusting. We're taking in what the other person is saying. We're reflecting on that. We're internalizing it. We're adjusting. We're going back and forth.
Mm.
Now, where this starts to get challenging is so now, Yvonne, I'm going to engage you to lead a change, and there is 10,000 people in this organization. And each one of those people is different. As a change leader, this is where it becomes challenging. If you are leading a change with 2 people, with 5 people, with 10 people, with 100 people, with 10,000 people, it becomes fundamentally different. While at the same time, it's fundamentally the same. So a lot of those tools that we have are still there. The real question is, how do we scale them? How do we turn them from this lovely, beautiful, deep, rich conversation between 2 people to a lovely, deep, rich conversation between 10,000? And that's where I think people struggle.
Two things that stand out for me, like you said, was every change manager or change management function needs to have change leadership. While change leadership can be standalone for every professional,
Mm,
regardless of role or title, but every change manager needs that change leadership skills because that's what
Yeah,
moves the needle. That's the people. Change management is the tactical side of things, which is the
absolutely. And it doesn't have to be the same person. So we scale up to that 10,000 people size. You're probably going to be better to have a change manager and a change leader as two separate people filling those roles because it's probably going to get too big for one. So it doesn't need to be the same person, but the roles need to be fulfilled.
yeah.
Sometimes we can fill the both roles with one person. Sometimes we might need a whole team.
Isn't that where perhaps change leadership needs to be scalable? Isn't that where
Yeah.
we're talking about change leadership as a capability across board? Change leadership
Mm,
as a skill set that change champions or change agents need to have. Change leadership
there it
as a
is.
skill that project managers, BAs, sponsor, all of the people that are participating in leading that project have to have those change leadership skills to be
Mm.
in their own little circles or their sphere of influence to lead and drive that change forward. Change leadership as a capability and competency is fast becoming critical, if not, if you don't have it, what are you doing?
So we think about this. I'm going to use the two extremes here. I'm leading a change of 10 people. I'm leading a change of 10,000.
Mm,
If I'm leading a change of 10, and when we talk about communication and having this beautiful, rich one-on-one, how
yeah.
realistic is it that I have 10 one-on-one conversations? Super realistic. Now I
Mm,
go to the 10,000. How realistic is it that I
mhm,
have 10,000 one-on-one conversations? It is not at all, not even close. So
yeah.
people say, you know what, that's great. I would love to be able to do that, but I can't. So I'm just going to send an email to everyone and that's it. They've come to the other end of the spectrum. Now, you said something really key in there, the change agent network. So I'm getting into a 10,000 person change. The
Mm,
first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, where's my army? Where's my troops? Where's
mm,
my change agent network?
yeah.
Now, part of the reason we're able to have such a good, deep, rich conversation is because we trust each other. We
Mm,
respect each other, right? We have a relationship that allows that. So imagine now you are one of the 10,000 and you're based in Calgary. And I'm based here in Toronto. By the way, head office is in Toronto. So there's a bit of a relationship issue there between the regional office and head office. We're across the 100th meridian. So we've got a bit of an east-west of Canadian thing happening on. Yeah. And now you get this call from this Dave guy who you've never met and you have no relationship. And now I'm expected to try to influence you,
mm,
right, into this change. I am so set up for failure. I am so right now not able to get to where I need to go.
yeah.
So my next question as a change leader is, okay, who is this Yvonne person and why should I be talking with her instead of Sam, Bill, or Joe, who are also in the Calgary site? Okay, Yvonne is the head of the Calgary location and she's the regional manager, whatever that is. So she has power and sway. I need to enlist her into my change agent network
Yes.
because she's going to have the ability to have the conversation with the 1 in 10 or the 1 in 100 that are in the Calgary site and be effective. Now, as a change leader, I'm no longer leading individuals through change. I'm leading other leaders through change. And when
Yeah.
I lead a leader, it's different than leading an individual. So what do I need to do with you? I need to equip you with some leadership skills. I need to equip you with some support that's going to help you lead the change, not
Mm,
to live the change, but to lead the change. Because if I only equip you with how to live the change, I've changed one person out of the 100. But if I
yeah.
equip you to lead the change, you're now my multiplier. I now have
Yeah.
two Davids.
Leaders of leaders make the whole difference. And that's where
Exactly.
this great skill set for a change leader is to empower others as well. It's not about
Absolutely.
trying to do it alone. Phenomenal. You just dropped so many nuggets there on networks. And I want to take you to AI. You
Yes.
knew I was going to come to
I
AI.
knew you're going there. Knew you're
You
going there.
knew, and we've had these discussions before. So I want to see progress, David. I want to see progress when we have this.
Okay, so for the audience who doesn't know this, last time Yvonne and I talked, she asked the question, and I think there was a panel of us, if I remember, who said, "Who is using AI?" And I put up my hand to say, "I am not." And she was like, "What?" So that's the focus you're looking for.
where are you on your journey on AI right now?
I'm getting there. I am starting. So I have an account. We're actually using it within the organization. So we have a paid for internal account because one of the challenges with AI is it does a phenomenal job at going and looking at data and kind of making sense of things. But the world is its oyster. So when you take your AI agent and you say, okay, AI, help me understand or figure out this, come up with that, and you let it loose on the world, it is looking at everyone's IP.
Mm,
So we have it internal to all of our IP to say, okay, AI, help us make sense of what this looks like and what that looks like
mm,
within the context of what we're doing and how we're approaching things. Now, this is the piece that's really helped me take that step because as I look at what AI does from a world perspective, there's a lot of crap and it's starting to feed itself. So you've heard the term hallucinations, where
yeah.
AI is coming up with stuff that simply doesn't exist
Mm,
because the AI is looking out at the world and part of the world is AI. So it's a bit of the mirrors in the
yeah.
elevators that reflect and reflect and reflect. And my favorite example of this, and this happened a number of years ago. So I have some friends who are in the court system, and a defense lawyer submitted a brief that included a citation for Kramer versus Kramer. You remember the movie. And he had used AI to help write his brief, which is, you know what? That's brilliant because it makes it faster, easier. You've got this great thing. The problem was it went out and it looked at the world. And part of the world is the landmark case of Kramer versus Kramer. Now, here's the problem. He didn't review his work. So AI is a fantastic tool, but much like a calculator, it is going to process what you put into it. So if I take my calculator and I press some numbers onto it, it will tell me the answer of whatever the heck I pressed. If I don't do the formula correctly, so order of operations, yeah. If I don't enter the formula incorrectly, it'll give me the wrong number.
There are quite a few things you've raised, and I want to challenge you a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
So, first of all, total with you. Hallucinations, they happen.
Yes.
Garbage in, garbage out, for
hmm
real. And the results you get from using AI, and when we're talking AI, AI is broad, right? So
Oh, it's hugely broad.
we're talking generative AI. We're talking about right now just to the basics, which is like ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini, and all of those things. And the information is only as good as you put it, and that's where prompt engineering comes in. And I totally agree with you, as in it's a tool whereby let's work together. It's about what I'm putting in, the context of what I'm putting in, how I'm feeding it information. And when it comes out, the ability for me to see it as a tool and not gospel and review that material.
Mm.
What I want to challenge you on, as somebody who is a change leader, was there not just a teeny little bit resistance to change?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But okay, yes, you called me out. You got me. Here's the thing. It is still in its infancy. It's still in its infancy. So we have leading edge, we have bleeding edge, but also context matters.
Hmm.
So it hasn't been super needed for me. I am getting my job done. I'm getting my work done. And it is something where I should be doing a bit more of that. And at the same time, we need to balance the past with the future. When I look at what is able to be done, right? And when I look at what I need to get done, and yes, I am probably behind the curve a little bit here. I will self-admit that. And at the same time, what is the key critical skill that I need to develop? And that's the critical thinking piece. And part of my fear of AI, and I fear this in myself, but I fear this more at the larger, bigger level, is people plugging it in and then taking it as gospel.
Mm.
Because in the early days of Excel, okay, I'll admit it, Lotus 1, 2, 3, in the early days of that, I was a big early adopter and I would plug some stuff in and say, there it is, it's done. And a couple of times I got caught out in that I had put garbage in, garbage out and
Mm.
gotten something without taking that critical look. So it's really made me step back and say, okay, I need to really be cautious and take the critical look. And I think Ironically, it's a bit of my quick start that's kicking in here because I'm like, I know if I quick start too fast on this, it's going to go sideways and I'm going to be spinning out of control. So there's a bit of that happening.
You know what? I do the fact that you may be a slow adopter to it. And I like the fact that I'm having this conversation with you as a slow adopter because there are many people out there who are in a similar spot like you are, and it would be good for them to see the similar spot. And it's good for people who are fast adopters, who are already into it, to also understand the mindset of somebody like you who's
Mm,
not quick starting as you would usually quick start.
yeah.
It's not adopting really fast. And that's the beauty of when we're leading and driving change, to realize that everybody is on different stages of the change
Yeah.
curve. And the mistake that anybody can make as a change leader is to think that we're all at the same spot
Yes, yes.
on the curve. And that
Yeah,
way we do a one size fits all when it comes to our approach in terms of how we're leading the change. We need to realize that everybody's at different stages and we need to accommodate the different stages people are, be willing to
absolutely.
pause for a little bit, lead with empathy, lead with emotional
Hmm.
intelligence in terms of how we lead that change.
Yeah. And never forget that you've been thinking about this for weeks, if not months, if not even years. So where
Exactly.
are you on the curve? You've had the time to go down the curve and you're coming
Yes.
up the other side. And now you announce it to a bunch of people who, you know what, honestly, their horizons are much closer to
Mm,
today than yours are. The further you go into the leadership, aside from change, just leadership of organizations, the
mm,
higher you are in the organization, typically, the longer is your horizon. So you're
mm.
already looking 2, 3, 5, 10 years out. Now
Yes.
you go down to those frontline staff, they're looking 2, 3, 5 days or weeks out. As a leader within an organization, right? And this is part of what causes us change leaders challenge. As a leader in the organization that's higher up, they've said, okay, we've thought about this, we've analyzed it, we've done the studies, we've done the research, we're ready to change, let's go. Then they hand it to a change leader like us. And they say, now I want you to bring the 10,000 people who are in the organization down this path.
Mm.
And then they check in with you in a week and say, why is it taking so long? Because you know what? These 10,000 people are hearing about this for the first time.
Exactly. David. Oh, oh gosh. I just hope there's somebody listening to this that needs to hear this. And that's why we have
Yes.
these conversations. The amount of times I have tried to explain this piece to somebody, you've read all the policy documents, you've read 100 pages, you've had different conversations, you've been working on this for 2 years,
Processed it.
you've processed this, and from your processing, you've come to the realization, oh, it's an easy change. Fair enough, it might be an easy change. But you have
Now,
now because you understand.
it wasn't 6 months ago when you started reading all that stuff and doing all
Yes,
that processing and thinking.
all of a sudden, you expect the person who you're just exposing that change to or sharing that change to get on board very
Yeah.
quickly. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second while I just take in my emotions and let you conclude.
Love it. I love
Oh,
it.
man. You're on the money. You're on the money with it. I just totally feel you on that one. David, I
Okay.
said to you, we're going to have this conversation, and I feel as if I'm sitting down with an old friend on the couch and just having a natter. And anybody listening to this, their flies on the wall listening to us as we
Yeah,
go
yeah.
on, right? Because we've had so much fun. As I round up the conversation, a couple of things I want to just put to you. There's so much change going on right now.
Yeah.
I say unprecedented change going on now. When we look at even socioeconomic changes, we look at
Mm,
AI, which we've spoken about, we think about what's happening between countries at the moment, we think about the workplace. But let's bring this to you. How are you feeling about the changes right now? How are you feeling about the
good.
current state of the world?
It seems like an odd response. So life, the world, there's an ebb and a flow.
Mm,
We are ebbing. Now, you're going to ebb for a period of time. It's going to pause and then it's going to start to flow. I think we're approaching that turnaround. Now, the ebb is as important as the flow. It's a bit like the seasons. We appreciate more the summer when we have the winter, vice versa. But with the ebb and the flow, it has to go to a certain point. And I agree. I've been asking this question of myself, of friends and colleagues. I feel like we've regressed. When I think about the world when I was growing up, when I think about some of the things that are happening, the divisive elements that are happening within the world, racism, it feels like it's way up from where it was. Tolerance, cooperation does not feel like what it used to be. And we look at our history, even going back to our childhoods, and we saw some of the key events that occurred that caused a shift in the public zeitgeist. And we made progress. And then we settled.
Mm.
So there's the flow. And then it ebbed. It is going to flow again. That I'm 100% sure of. Will that be next year, next decade, next lifetime? I don't know. It will flow. And there's always pockets of excellence. And I think the best thing that we can do, just as humans, is to live the best that we can, to be as open and aware. And honestly, part of being a change leader, the key word there, leader, when we see those things, we need to have the courage to stand up and say, you know what? No, that's not cool. And we can do that on a very small scale. And for some of us, we have the ability to do it on a bigger scale. We do need to do it, right?
Yes.
We do need to do it. So I feel hopeful. I think we're better off than we think, and there's silver linings all over the place. They're
Yes, I
coming.
like that. I like the positive take and the acknowledgement of yes, we are in an ebb, but sometimes we need the ebb
Yeah,
to go into the flow. Oh,
do.
for sure. What's one thing you would love the listeners to take? If there's one thing you want listeners to take away, I want you to
Mm,
complete this sentence for me. The future of change leadership is
right.
eh,
Here's what I want people to take away.
okay.
Yes, I'm going to finish the sentence by saying change leadership, the future of change leadership is bright. What I
Okay.
would love you to take away, we are all change leaders. Whether we are leading ourselves, whether
Mhm.
we're leading a small team in a regional office, or whether we're leading a big organization, we are
Yeah.
all change leaders. Change is ever present. It is always. I mean,
Mhm.
we in ourselves, as just an individual human on this planet, are changing, and the planet is changing around us. So every one of us is a change leader. That's what
Okay.
I want people to take away.
Fantastic. David, it's been absolutely wonderful having this conversation. I learned a lot from you, the analogies and thinking about we always need an ebb for a flow. I love that. Thank you. And thank you to our listeners.
Great pleasure. And thank you. I'm loving the work that you're doing and so honored to be part of it.
Thank you.
What they
Thank you for listening to the Change Leadership Conversations. Be sure to hit the follow button, leave us a review, and share this podcast with your team or fellow change leaders because leading change is better when we do it together.